Hello. Welcome to the Claws Connect. This is Shawn White. Hello, John. We already have John on here. How are you? Thanks for joining us. We're going to let the rest of the audience join. And it's going to be a fabulous show. I'm looking forward to it. And hello, Oliver from East Tennessee. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Hope everybody's well. Hello, Willie. These are some new names, guys. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Mary. I was thinking about you today. Glad you could join us. It's just you, John. We'll give it a little bit of time here for some, hopefully more. I was on TikTok just a little bit ago, and it was really slow on there tonight. There was under 100, which is usually more than that or double. Hi, Bob. I see. Excellent. We're going to have a really good guest tonight. He's amazing. So I am Shawn White. I'll say that again for those that are joining us. This is the Claws Connect. And part of the Claws Connect on the air is empowering the North Pole and all of the entertainers. Tonight's show is going to be, it's titled actually, Stage Strings in Santa Magic, the Musical World of Joel Lagrone. That's our guest. He is an amazing person with a lot of talent, and we're going to get to know him a little bit, or a lot, and all the cool stuff that he does. Hello, Don. Thanks for joining me tonight. Okay, Mary says, I've been using advice from Bruce to read aloud Christmas story each day to help with voice and knowing the story. Love learning from each of your shows. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you very much. And yeah, I need to start doing that myself. Okay, so I guess we will get rolling here. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 11 of the Claws Connect on the air. I want to thank Angela, my producer, who is wonderful, and I lean on her, and I appreciate her so much. Does a great job. Tonight, as I said, tonight's theme is merging stage, music, in the heart of the Santa world. We're going to be talking about music, performance, service, which we haven't really touched on a whole lot, which a lot of us do, which is wonderful, and storytelling tonight. Hi, Terry from Stay Bearded. A little before I introduce our guest, I just want to say I didn't have any hand lotion, so I was putting on this just now, and it smells so good in here. Stay Bearded. Okay, with that, Angela, will you roll some pictures so we can introduce our guest, Joel Lagrone. Wow. So many pictures, just so many different characters. This man is amazing. Um, I do want to tell you that he's had many performances, stage related and music. Been in bands, plays instruments, all kinds of musicals, and we're going to let him go into that for us and tell us. Um, he has an exclusive performing with an exclusive place in Dallas. Um, he's amazing. So with that, I would like to introduce Joe Lagrone.
Hi, John.
Hello, Guy. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
I love all those pictures because you just look so different and everything, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, the secret my wife will tell you is that she slept with a bunch of different characters.
Love it. Love it. She never knows who her husband's going to be,
That's
right?
right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we've showed pictures, I've mentioned different things, but tell us about you.
Well, I'm the fourth of 5 children. We were raised starting in Boise, Idaho by Texas transplants. And then when I was 10, we ended up moving back to El Paso. They were from Central Texas, but my father's work was with the Foreign Mission Board of the Southern Baptist Church. And he was a printer. And so we ended up, and El Paso was kind of a mission field for us. From there, when I graduated high school, I left for the big city, Dallas, and got my engineering degree and have been involved in aerospace in this area for the most part over the last 45 years. This area is where I met and married my wife, started our family. And so we are on the Tarrant County side, the Fort Worth side of DFW. But my career all along has been aerospace. I found a love for the stage and music early in my life. And believe it or not, the industry itself lent itself to me to where I could be a performer on the weekends and evenings. And that became my avocation, just something that I found that I love to do. So over the course, I've never not worked in the industry on some of the major aircraft programs that you can name over the last 45 years. The latest excursion to Iran, as a matter of fact, there were 3 different airplanes used that I actually worked on.
Wow.
And now we're getting close to that retirement age. My wife she's a retired school teacher. Okay. And looking forward to the day when maybe Santa becomes full-time instead of just part-time, and I can retire from that business. And again, but it's afforded me to be able to do the creative side. I initially was a fine artist. I wanted to draw and paint, and that's what drew me to Southern Methodist. Everyone knew I would be drawing pictures the rest of my life. And one of my classmates talked me into meeting the engineering dean. And when I did, figured out that my grades were good enough where I could get in and actually work for my degree. And that's how I ended up with a mechanical engineering degree, but working in the aerospace business, which itself is a very creative field. And I've enjoyed participating in that. I draw all the time, or I did lots of design work over the years, which is certainly a creative process.
So you were designing the airplanes? Is that what part?
B-2, the F-22, the parts on the F-16. Currently, I'm on the F-35. I've worked at Boeing for 2 years on the 777 program, worked on the V-22, a lot of helicopter designs as well. And yeah, we did primarily system installation. My specialty ended up being propulsion. But I've also done lots of fuel system design and hydraulic system design.
Wow.
Now my day-to-day work is just with suppliers where we help them keep on track, and I help them sort out the engineering because there's a mountain of data that they have to sift through to make parts for us.
Wow. I'm kind of shocked that my life keeps crossing these with pilots and aircraft and all this stuff. I grew up in Santa Fe, Texas.
Right.
And NASA was like, and still is like, I've always loved it because our school was so close to NASA that we had lots of science, and I just loved that part of school. And
Well,
we ended up moving away, but I mean, I it's a special place in my heart. And now I'm so hooked in with the airplanes and airports, and so
well, STEM is always the name of the game, especially with my business, science, technology, engineering. But I try and get them to, and mathematics, sorry. I try to get them to focus on STEAM as much as possible: science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. So that
I
makes
feel
me,
that has a place all the time in the process of life.
yes,
As much as math does, as much as science and technology does, I believe art has a great place.
I love hearing that so much because that's part of Betsy and I. We do a lot of reading and research, and it all seems to, a lot of what we're doing, go back to art, the brain, and how much art affects so much in so many different ways, and in the schools and everything.
I actually work with Betsy's family in the industry, her husband and her son.
Okay. Okay. Now I see the connection. I kind
Yes.
of knew that, but didn't know. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, the art connection is part of what I've been trying to teach in classes too, is the creativity and how helpful it is for your health and doing these things, and for your brain, and how we haven't lost it. We just became adults and too logic for our own good sometimes when we're, told to stop daydreaming or whatever. And um, so thank you for saying that. Okay, I really loving this. Um, so let me see if I had some. Is there any other, you do you have grandchildren?
I do. Right
Okay.
now, we created, I wanted to say, my wife is actually sitting here next to me. And,
Okay.
but we have two adult children now. The oldest is our daughter, and she lives about 2 miles, no, 6 miles away from us with five of our grandchildren.
Wow.
And
Good
then
for
our
you.
youngest, he's just 2 years younger, is a traveling musician stationed in Nashville. He currently plays for a country artist named Ann Wilson. She's a
Okay.
young lady, and he's just doing great with her. And he has a young daughter now. So our youngest, Emery, is in Nashville. And she was actually born in Tennessee. So we have Lagrones back in Tennessee. That's where my dad did his training as a printer, was in Nashville.
Very cool. Very cool.
They were over here today. They left right before the show started.
Aw.
And the music group that you see behind me is actually a haven for them. They're allowed to come in, and they're allowed to uh, utilize any instruments they want. That's the way I raised both of my children, who are adults now. We just, teach them respect for the
Yep.
instruments as well. So far, four of the five that are here can play piano, and I expect in the end all of them will be able to play instruments, just because we've exposed that to them. But of course, I swore them off today because I had the setup, which is normally in my office here in the music room, and said, you can't get in there today.
Well, I did much of the same, because you can see the piano behind me. That
Mhm.
was my childhood piano. And
Nice.
there's a, I don't know if you can see it. There's a little box down here on the floor that's full of musical instruments for children,
Okay.
and books about music. And this whole cabinet is full of clarinets and all kinds of stuff, and that closet. So I did the same, and I've got pictures of all my nieces, and just exposing them. You have to do that. It's
Absolutely.
very, very good for them. So real quick, hello, Patrick Moss, one of my favorites from Houston. Paul Anderson, hello. Canada. Mike, hello, Mike. David, Troy, let me see if I missed any. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. I think I got everybody. Oh, Kelly Mitchell, hello. She's from Michigan. Appreciate all of you. Okay. Um, and Troy, hello. Okay. Um, so where do we even start? You've got so amazing. I mean, I've thought about this all day. There's so much. Um, why don't you take us back where you started with the music? Why don't we start from there?
So I remember in Idaho, all of us got piano lessons when we started, and we were exposed to music that way. My father led some. We were one of two Southern Baptist churches in Boise. The rest were either Mormon or Lutheran churches that were there. And it was a small enough church to where if they needed someone to do something, my parents were typically involved. And so I remember my dad actually leading the choir sometimes Sunday morning, but he was a strong vocalist. My mother was a sweet singer as well. And so we were always exposed to music growing up. We moved to El Paso and I was there. And I think this is a story I related to you at some point. I don't know if it was misfortune or a fortunate thing. I actually broke my leg playing softball, and I had just auditioned for a sound-alike contest for the Buddy Holly story movie that came out. And I had won third prize in that, saw the movie, and decided I wanted to be a rock star. Broke my leg in 3 places and spent the summer in El Paso, 10 weeks in a cast, all the way up my leg. And you don't want to be out in the summer heat in El Paso in a cast. So I stayed indoors with my Buddy Holly story record and a guitar, and I learned every song on that record.
Wow.
And carried that with me. I started at church playing music for the other kids, and we did choruses back then. We called them. This was long before praise and worship had taken hold, and we sang campfire songs and things like that with the guitar. When I left for college, I started with my guitar at the Baptist Student Union on Southern Methodist campus and played there as well. And then after I met and married my wife, but before that, we actually met within a church choir setting where we were both singing, and her dad sang. Her parents were involved that way. And we became very involved in the music ministry of our church, to the degree that one day show up and they said, "Hey, you've got long hair, long dark hair at the time, and a beard, and we know you can sing. We want you to portray Jesus in a Life of Christ musical, a pageant that we were going to produce at the church." And so we produced a pageant 1 year at the church at Easter time, David Clydesdale's "How Great Thou Art," and away we go. From there, we ended up writing 5 of our own productions, which became major deals. And I ended up not only being involved as an actor, but helped produce, create the stage, because I understood the design process, and we created stages for it. And then I ended up directing as well. Over the course of that time frame, I investigated a little bit of community theater, but backed out of that and stayed primarily focused on Life of Christ musicals. 25 years later, I had performed 650 times in the role of Jesus in Texas, in Washington State, in Alabama, in Georgia, in Spain, and in Russia.
Wow.
12 different musical versions of the Life of Christ. And then we proceeded in that same time frame to create a performing arts ministry, which took those drama pieces as well as musicians and dancers into the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, so that we could in fact visit the prisoners there, just as Scripture would have us do, and not just perform for them, but minister to them through the art. We'd always take a preacher along with us to deliver a message to them, but allow the music and the drama and the dance to carry the weight, some emotional weight, if you would, to help open them up to receiving a message.
So how receptive were they? I mean, did you
very much. We worked through the chaplaincy program, of course, and you know yourself, you can say so much through a song.
Yep.
You can say a lot through a script, that's direct, but also through lyrical dance. There's just so much meaning in an interpretation in that art process, and very moving for people. And so for us, that was a great lesson to be involved that way. I came out of that And as I aged out, if you would, from that role, chose to, and for me, it was such a godsend to have that creative process developed in me. I managed over the 25 years to work with a lot of really well-trained people, and I was good at watching, very good a student of understanding the process and figuring it out very quickly. And it was something that I felt I did well with the drama, and it was beneficial to our family. It was providential. There was, I don't want to be crass about this, but we made a lot of money by doing this. Once I became known in this role, there were lots of churches that would call and hire me to do it. That wasn't the point of me doing it. It was a ministry, but that was a providence, right? That was beneficial. And it was really helpful for our family as well. And so in the end, when I came out of that as a ministry, I said, I know enough now to help like community theater and be involved. I'm known in this area. People know me by name because of those other experiences, that I will let them sell tickets on me, right? By me being involved in the process still. So since then, I've done King and I've done Music Man, I've done Annie Gets Your Gun, where I played lead characters in there. Javert in Les Mis. I just finished up as King Triton because anymore, if I do these things, back in the day, I could shave beards and I could go to goatees, but the last 8 years, of course, if I portray a role, it's got to keep this look. So I've been able to be Jacob in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Noah in a production of The Ark, and King Triton in a production of
I would love to have seen you in King and I. That's my favorite musical.
You wouldn't have recognized me because there was no hair. And as a matter of fact, I loved the show, but I loathed Wednesdays. Wednesdays was shaving day. And I'm sorry, ladies, I hated shaving my legs. I hated shaving my arms, which I had to do as well. They're very hairy. Everything that was exposed, I had to shave.
Wow, I never even thought about that all to that. But that music, like, I just love that musical. I used to be in a musical group where we would go to musicals in Detroit, and everybody was like, I was by far the youngest, so it was old timers, and they knew they'd been going for years and years. So I would sit and have coffee afterwards and listen to them talk, and I learned so much from being around these people. And we did this for over probably a couple years. One of them would set up all the tickets for us, and the King and I, though, I just sat there, and it was at the Fisher Theater, and I fell in love with that musical. So, but Joseph too. You said you were the father in Joseph.
I was.
Yeah, that was my favorite to be in, was Joseph, because between losing 10 pounds because of all the dancing, it was a blast, total blast. So let's see. I'm just getting off on a tangent like I always do here. So do you have anything coming up with the musicals? Or I know you just did Little Mermaid. What's next for that?
Right. I've had calls already, and it's kind of a one-off. I had promised this theater that we would do this show when I did Joseph last year. It's the same theater, and they pre-cast me in this role. And Dion and I came up with the idea this would be a great show for our current ministry, if you would, to sponsor. And so Surf Club, which is Santa's Ukulele Remedy Fund that we utilize for helping the musical therapists within the context of the hospital that I service, we sponsored the show just to help get our name out, because it was in conjunction with the same place where I am Santa, North Park Center in Dallas.
So tell me, and then I'll link this to what I'm wanting to go, the direction. How much does your musical background, is it helping you be Santa? How much performance, I mean, the whole thing, the whole thing, all the stuff you know and you've done, how much a part of being Santa, does it really make you? It makes me better. It helps me so much with what I'm doing. But
Well,
tell me.
absolutely. I'll tell you more background. I started with want to be a rock star, and of course, not only was I doing theater, but my wife and I are both musicians, singers. Uh, Me to the degree where I love to be out in front of people. Her not so much. She's still involved in choral music and performance groups and the like, but not feeling the necessity to be on stage. For me, it's just so much fun. And so I ended up playing in garage bands, dad bands, those kinds of things, as well as leading worship. And I remember one of the worship jobs that I got, a pastor came to me, he said, "We need you to lead worship for this church." And I said, "I know what that looks like." And so after all of that time frame in there, when I became Santa, I knew what that would look like for me because of my entire background. And for me, it made sense that Santa would sing, but not just sing, that Santa would be able to pick up a ukulele and play, or pick up a guitar and sing, and lead the crowd in singing as well. Not just sing and entertain for the kids, but involve them. The leading in worship at times like that at churches was just a natural thing. And so even at tree lightings, it's like, I'm taking a guitar. I may have to force myself onto the people because that may not be their plan. And I'm typically good at asking, making sure we can do that in the process. But the first time I stepped out with a family for a family visit, I just told them, they said, "How do you want to come in? You want us to gather the kids?" I said, "Nope. I'll show up with a guitar. You open the door and I will hit the ground running, singing jingle bells. They'll hear and they'll come." And they did. He was like the piper.
So I would say what you're saying is this. We talk a lot about developing your character and where you get the image from and what you believe the character to be that you're playing. And it sounds like this is who you envision, the guitar and a musical Santa.
Sure.
Because a lot of people struggle and they don't really go that deep with it. And that's what we've been trying to communicate. Spend time on just thinking about what you think it should be.
Right.
And then you can become that character, and you can really become that character and do an awesome job with it. So yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
And as much as I've been on stage and been performing, and I've sung anthems for Major League Baseball for 25 years in front of 40,000 people at a time. I've been on television in front of however many they have. I know when we were on TV in Russia, they said the numbers were in the millions that were watching. And it's like, that's all well and good, standing at a bar, playing in a band, wanting to be a rock star. But when I stepped out on stage as Santa, the response was when I knew Santa is a rock star.
I love that.
Santa can carry every bit of that. I went with Mrs. Claus Dallas for the first time to the stadium where the Cowboys play, and we literally stepped out on red carpet, and it was as if we were rock stars.
That is so amazing. She is. I've told her, I've never met Darla, but I told her a long time, probably a couple years ago, I said, "Darla, you are my everything that I want to be. You're like the classiest Mrs. Claus in the world, to me." So I just feel like between the two of you, holy cow, amazing.
He's the best, and that is fun for us to work together.
That's the bar high, that's for sure. That's amazing. So let's see. We have Don on here says, "You just pointed out a problem that I see too much. You said that you sit and listen to the older members of your group. Yeah, I see too many young people who expect that everyone needs to listen to them, and they never learn." Well, we just got to keep talking and hope, and hopefully they'll learn and listen, because the knowledge is out there for sure. And John says, I see as well sign of the times, I'm afraid. Mary says, do you ever sing without an instrument? And she said
Absolutely.
she has no
Absolutely.
musical
And
training and
that
wonders.
can be part of it. And I don't have to have instrumentation to sing. Part of what I do as far as encouraging others to sing and participate, sometimes that helps. But I also use tracks, and that's something that other Santas and Mrs. Clauses can use as well, to have a good track, because the instrumentation helps carry some of that weight as well. I know there's going to be Santas out there that feel like, well, my voice isn't good enough, or I don't sing well, or what have you. And I'm the first one to say, that's not what's important about the situation. And that's certainly not what the kids are going to pick out. I don't think the parents will either, especially if the kids are engaged. It doesn't matter the quality, it matters whether they're having fun and whether they're involved. And so I don't have any problem doing a cappella. That's part of my background and my upbringing, to be able to do that. And yes, that's a great tool. When I started one year at the mall, it may have been the second year, we were getting ready to go live. And of course, because of the size of the facility, we have to have support, sound support. And I chose at that time to use different tracks, even ones that I would play along with. And power went out right before we got ready to go. And then it came back on, but it reset all the computers and all the stuff that was working with the sound system, which was tied into that and tied into the internet. And they said, we got nothing for you. What are you going to do? I said, just make sure my guitar is set out there, because it didn't matter to me that I didn't have a microphone that worked. I just grabbed the guitar and walked out in the middle of the kids where I was close to them, and we could carry it still with an acoustic guitar, and the voice.
Wow, that's awesome. I would say Mary on here asked about this. I struggle with getting groups to sing along. Any tips? I know what I personally do when I have a group is I will pick out little helpers, and usually the older ones, and have them come up closer to me, and they'll start singing with me. And then I let them more or less lead in a way. And then the other kids will follow. So that's how I handle it. What advice would you say?
So some of it ends up a natural progression, challenging people. And I know when we do harder songs like 12 Days of Christmas and Must Be Santa, who's got a beard that's long and white, that's a perfect example, because the call and response that we learn sometimes within the church setting or wherever, that's such a good tool. And so if you can do call and response songs, then that helps. But when we did 12 Days of Christmas this last year, and I did that as a closing song on Christmas Eve, it was lots and lots of fun, because it's not that I would get flustered, but it was hard to remember sometimes what was next. And so if I would skip or not come up with the right one, I would just stop and I point at a parent and say, what's next?
Good idea.
And get them to engage. Is it 12? No, wait, is it 10 Piper's Pie? Wait, is it 11 Lords? What? Okay, what's next? And we actually got some good back and forth going, and then we would all sing it together. But so there's some re-envisioned songs that really help for Christmas time in the call and response. Here's one. You can catch it because it follows the same tune, but you get the crowd to go back and forth with you. I'll say up, 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 and the crowd says up, up, up. Ho, 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 ho. Click, 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 click. Who wouldn't go? Who wouldn't go? Up, up, up. Ho, ho, ho. Click, click, click. Who wouldn't go? Up on the housetop, reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus. And you do the rest of the song like that. But the call and response then, and what I always get the kids to do is to shout. I said, we're going to use our outdoor voices now. We're going to go up, up, up. And when I say those words, you shout back. Up, 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 up. Ho, 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 ho. Click, And so that's one way to engage them, is to do call response.
Okay, you're hired. I want to hire you. Dang, that's nice. Very nice. Um, okay, we're going to have to take a little break here for commercials, and then we'll be right back. Angela, if she's there. Okay, since we've been talking about, and you just showed us how you play, which is amazing, can you tell us a little bit about what you told me about the screens on stage and how you're having the children interact? And
So yeah, on your run through there, you talked about technology, and since I'm in engineering, and of course we have been working since day one on computers, right? Since my day one, right? Which 1981 when I came into the business, and things were just shifting over to where everyone was using computers, not just some of the analysts. Because they became more and more accessible. And of course, I've been there from the advent of the PC, but I've also been involved with other engineers who were musicians. And our electronics engineers, I played in a rock band at my work at Lockheed for 25 years. And we covered Chicago and ZZ Top and the Stones and the Beatles and all that stuff. But one of our guitarists in there was crazy good with electronics, and it was also good with recording equipment and other things that helped facilitate then the music, because you can use technology to your advantage. So even when I started doing home stuff, I would make sure that I programmed, kept everything within the context of an iPad. And of course, there's other personal devices that you can use, but then you can run everything wireless. And it was not outside the way I thought anyway, to show up at a place to throw down a wireless speaker, to use a Bluetooth device that carried tracks to run my guitar and microphone wireless, and just go to a country club, and I didn't have to worry about tying in with anyone's system. I just laid 3 things down and started playing, and away we go. When we got to the mall, North Park Center, and everything changed and morphed. The first year we were in the confines of one space outside the cottage, which still you're in a mall setting, so it's relatively large, but we were also close enough to an entrance and an exit to where once I started and the crowds gathered, then the fire marshal would show up and he said, "You either move this to a better location or we'll shut you down."
wow.
And so we did. We moved to a much larger facility within the context of the mall itself. And with that came its own problem. You could literally stand with 1,000 to 1,500 people gathered around. But that means there's people, and I think Angela showed in there one of the images where you see the entire crowd sitting in front. And if you're reading a book, reading it and showing the pictures doesn't work. no one can really see. And so we utilize big screen TVs so that they can see the imagery of the stories that we're telling. Um, and they can be involved. They can hear then the words. They can see images up there. This year we're changing up just a little bit as part of what we want to do. And the stories that I tell, we're going to have the children illustrate them. So Christmas in July will include a meeting there at North Park Center. We'll invite, we have lots of social media and social influencers with kids that participate. We'll invite them and bring the kids in, and we'll tell them what the story topics are going to be, and then we'll have them illustrate them so that we can, while I'm telling stories as Santa, have their picture up there, and it'll say by Jimmy or by Sally or by Luca, and they'll know to watch, you know.
I love this so much. This is so nice. So many nice things it does for the child to just look up there, and they'll never forget that moment. And there's just so much good stuff. Okay, tell me about, we're going to move into the community engagement. You do a lot of nice things for your surf club. Tell us about your surf club involvement.
Well, you know, first of all, like I said, with the community theater, for me, that was a way that I could give back and allow other people, you know, to make money off of me and what I felt like my gifts and my talents were. I have always been an encourager because my background is such that I just like to say yes when people ask me to do things. And that's how I've gotten involved with so many things. And it has expanded my horizon by doing that. Sometimes I'm worn a little thin. Sometimes I've given too much relative to what I need to be doing around the house and other things. But it's allowed me to advance my artistic side very much. But it's also allowed me the education that I needed on how to do things. I have an engineering degree, I have a math minor, and that's all I got as far as training. Everything else is by doing and watching and listening to other people. And so I'm the first one that'll tell you, you can do it too, even without the background. It might take a lot of work. It might take more work than maybe you want, but you invest in yourself and you'll see the progress in there. You watch others and you'll see the progress in there. The way it unfolded by working with the mall itself, North Park Center, part of that is we are supporting a specific hospital in Dallas called Children's Health. And when I went there for the first time, the Seacrest Foundation, Ryan Seacrest's family, has actually instituted 15 different studios across the United States at different children's hospitals. And one of them is in Dallas, and it's at the hospital that I support. So I went one day and we said, we're doing room visits. I go another day because we go 4 times during my Christmas season. And they said, now you're going to go to the studio. And I walk into the studio and we're green screen. I can play and sing for a half hour and tell stories, and it is broadcast right into the children's room.
Amazing.
While I'm there, especially while I'm touring around, I see young women with guitars and ukuleles in their little wagons, and they're going from room to room. And these are the musical therapists. And I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to what a musical therapist is, but I began to converse with them and socialize with them and figure out, okay, they're doing a specific job, which I'm doing as well, but only here. They get to do it day and after day after day, and see the benefits of not just musical education, but music is medicine. Music is therapy to truly help not just the child that's there, but their families as well. And so through the initial conversations, I invited them to come to some of the studio shows that I do in the summer. And then as we began to converse, I said, tell me about what you do. And when they did, I said, tell me about what would help you do your job. And we talked about various things. And I said, just stumbled upon the idea one time. They were each July they actually raise funds for or raise supplies for the children's areas, right? Coloring books and things like that. But I saw in their music room some ukuleles and some guitars that they use to teach on. I don't know if you can see this one up close. You'd see the dots on the fretboard.
Yeah.
And they use that to actually instruct the children, teach
Wow.
them chords, or the parents or the siblings. And I said, could you use more ukuleles? They said, oh, sure. I said, all right. I love the ukulele. I love playing on it. What if we just figure out a plan and bring you ukuleles? So I think that season I brought a bag full of ukuleles. And then at Christmas time, I had saved up some more money and I bought them another bag full of ukuleles. And then we had a meeting and I said, I want to do a thing called Surf Club. And you
wow.
on the screen already. And I said, I think that I can get other musicians interested in helping, and we can bring you 10 ukuleles a month just for you to utilize however you need to, because I felt like the best thing we could do is not direct them, just supply them as an encouragement. And I said, any way you want to use these, figure it out. We're going to bring 10 a month. And that's what we've done. Now we're into our second full year of the 10 a month. And, usually I bring a bag full at a time and it just averages out to that. I've got several in bags behind me right now, and we'll take about 60 in, I think, right? I'll be there Christmas in July, which falls on a Friday, and I'll be broadcasting from the studio. We'll do a little Safari Santa program and then turn these over to them. But even more than that, my friends that I have helping me, not only on the fundraising, but I've encouraged them to be more involved. They're all musicians that have retired. They were also engineers with me at Lockheed. And I encouraged them to help participate more. And one of the things we stumbled on with the therapist was maintenance on instruments. And it's a severe and caustic environment that they're in, because if they walk into a room and then have to sanitize their instruments either before or after, that's really, really hard on the instruments. And finding out that they were literally bleaching fretboards, Mike Hutchings, if you're out there, I could feel you wincing right now. But they were bleaching their fretboards and bleaching the surfaces of the guitars to sanitize them, and just wearing stuff out. And a lot of that stuff is donated to them. So anyway, long story short, I took 5 of my musician friends. We went in one day and just spent 3 hours in the afternoon conditioning guitars, changing strings on guitars and ukuleles, and then sorting through some of the instruments that needed to be 86th and taken out of the program because they just weren't good anymore, and taking the others that possibly had some defect or some fault with them. We took them along with us. I took them to a luthier and had them worked over, and then took them back to them to put them back in service. And they said, y'all did more in 3 hours than we could have done in a year. And I said, well, we understand, right? We're all guys that have played in rock bands and played in garage bands. And, you got to do this on the instrument, but you also got to take out the trash at home. And it said, so we understand you're doing a job and you might not have time to even do the simple maintenance.
No.
We're guys that understand we can do that for you.
I love this idea. In my wheels are turning as usual, like how many musicians I know up here and people I know. And yeah, oh gosh, this is so wonderful. This is a whole nother angle that's needed for all of this.
Sure.
So thank you for doing all this. This is just amazing.
Well, for me, it's such a good way to encourage people where, and I've been back several times where I've run into not only patients at the hospital, but administrators from other hospitals that were there visiting. And when they saw me, they said, are you the Santa that brings the ukuleles? And I said, yes, I am. And so they had passed that word along, and that's not to my credit, that's to the musical therapy team's credit, that they're being recognized, that they have someone that is supporting them.
Yes.
And that's really our main purpose. And some of the stories they've told us already are just wonderful. And unfortunately, the first time I thought of this, I said, what I envision is that a child that's at the hospital hopefully will be able to go home with the ukulele.
Right.
And that's not always the case. But they've told us of an end of life story, and a couple, as a matter of fact, where the families played the ukulele. So you have a situation where the child was at end of life, but the brother or sister, the sibling, actually played the ukulele and took it with them. And so they will have that good memory to go with them as well, of being able to be with their family in that time and do something positive in the midst of that.
And they can recreate the same sound that was there and current with that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, we're working on a book. I've had a book for a while, but working on getting that published, which is all Christmas songs, all on the ukulele, right? So that they can sing Jingle Bells whenever they want.
I want to know when that's done. And I don't know, I'm going to tap into all this and do, I don't know what, but this is really interesting. We've got some questions on here. I think, hello, Sal from New York was on here, and Betsy's here, and Sherry and Mike. I think I said hi to Mike, and Carl White. Hello.
Hi, Carl.
Wonderful people. Betsy said you are a gift to the community, for sure. Thank you, Carl. Mike says you are amazing and a true gift to both the Claus and local community. Sherry says, darn it, always getting home late. We love you, Sherry. You're the best. She's so sweet. Mike says, using instruments in the clinical environment is harsh on the instruments. Working as a hospital clown, I have a hanger on the headstock of my main instrument so as not to put it down and have to disinfect between visits. I have never thought about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
This part of it.
Look, I've got Mike's guitar with me, right? I've got a Phineas guitar that Santa uses.
Really?
It's the same model. I even have an elf on the back.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Kind of reminds me of Phineas a little.
He's the best elf ever, for sure. He says, Kayla make the Waterman ukulele. They are plastic and play beautifully, and disinfecting isn't so tough on them. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we took 37 of those earlier this year over to the hospital, the Waterman. Yeah, and they glow in the dark, or a couple of the models glow in the dark too. So yeah.
Super cool. Okay. So you had mentioned something about, you work for the North Park Centers. Explain that in the Ronald McDonald House. You threw out some stuff when we talked.
So North Park Center is a mall that has been in existence for 60 years now. I believe when they were created 60 years ago, they became the largest indoor air-conditioned facility at the time. They have since expanded. I think they're nowhere near whatever the largest indoor air-conditioned malls are anymore, but they're still very large. They are not super high-end, but they are a higher end as far as clientele. And the family that owns them, just very interesting people, the Nasher family. And my understanding of their background was that they actually were related to the entertainment business itself, like from the vaudeville time frame. But they moved to the Dallas area and immediately became involved in land purchasing and that kind of stuff, and land development. And so they actually own the facility in Dallas off of I-75, which is a well-known corridor north and south coming out of downtown, that they purchased and then built the mall on. And as an aside, they're very involved in the community and also in art collecting, of all things, with particular focus on sculptures. And so they created the mall, and the mall became a place for them to display some of their own personal art collection, which they are very good at loaning out to other museums and the like. Um, but as tradition would have it, they started with a Santa. Now, the family is Jewish, but they love Christmas and they love Santa primarily because the mall functioned as a way for them to give back to the community, not only through the art that they display. And if you go in there, it truly is like a gallery, a sculpture gallery around. And they always have local artists displaying, usually from schools and the like, on display there as well. And it varies from month to month, as does their fundraising program. And they support like 12 different major charities during the year, and then 3 or 4 at Christmas time. So again, the tradition was to have Santa there, and it helps raise funds for a hospital. They utilized the Angel Tree program, and they were instrumental. I don't know whether they created it, but they were instrumental in starting it in the area. They support SBCA and then the Ronald McDonald House. They are known for a train display. It's called the North Park Center Trains, and people come from literally hundreds of miles around more to see the trains than Santa.
Wow.
And it supports Ronald McDonald House, and it's this huge display, and you could purchase sections of the train and have your grandkids' names put on them, and then receive those at the end. But it's really a fantastic setup. And again, like I said, the couple that own it are just so community minded to do this, and they more with that story. The tradition was to always have Santa there. And they reached a point with my predecessor, Dr. Anderson. He had been there 32 years, and COVID really took its toll on that program and him at his age. And retirement seemed to be the best way to kind of change that out. And it was very, very good, I think, for us to make that move at the time. Unfortunately, Dr. Anderson passed away a year after that. But we didn't revitalize the program per se, but by bringing me in, we changed it enough to revitalize it and power more into this fundraising for the hospital, which was necessary, and to breathe life back in still that COVID had really just hurt so many folks.
Yeah. So next time I'm in Dallas, I think I'm going to have to take Betsy needs to take me over to this mall.
You got to do it.
Okay, so let's see here. So you work exclusively for this park or this? Yeah,
I do. Yeah, we did a 1-year contract to start. They're very kind to me, and they wanted to go long term, and we said, okay, let's see. And the way that works is they to protect their interest. We signed up to a year-round contract, which also protects me as well, and it allows me then to volunteer within the context of the hospital that we all support, and with their support and blessing in there as well. And it doesn't draw me in and out of other places within the state of Texas.
That's one thing that I do want to do. I know I work with Jeff in Ohio a lot, and he does hospitals, and that's something that I would like to do. I haven't done yet.
Right.
But I'm going to be leaning on all these friends because it's going to break my heart. But, I just want to do it. I think I need to do that in life.
Yeah, the benefit is for us, and, I hate being selfish that way. It is hard work, but we receive a great benefit by doing it.
Yeah.
Really do.
And
that's not why I do it. You do it for the kids, and yet you will be blessed.
Yeah.
Because the kids are so resilient in the midst of sometimes tragedy where they're at. Yeah.
I personally want to, I think, work with Jeff and do this because we just work so well together. I think it'll be even better with us doing it together. So hopefully in the future. So I'd like you to, is your wife still sitting there by
She's
chance?
still close. Yeah, she's got the
Can we
puppy.
introduce her? Does she want to get on for a second here and say hi?
She says no. She's been at the pool all day.
Okay, well, we love her too. So we just
Yeah.
want her to know that and appreciate everything she does for you too.
Well, and she's a great supporter. You had that question on there, and such a muse for me in all of this. She is actually the better performer, if you would. She's the one with training. And again, her choice is not to be out in front the same way that I do. It doesn't bother me. And I think some of that is because I just don't know any better. I don't know to be afraid. I don't know to be nervous. I just do
That's
what I
a good
do
way
and
to look
enjoy
at it.
and get away with it. But she is such a good sounding board for me when I
Nice.
come up with ideas and get a quick, what are you thinking?
That means so much. That
You
is
think
such a
that'll
nice.
work? And I
Yeah.
don't mean that in a negative way, because she is always good to correct me when I'm just not headed down the right path and say, do you ever think about doing this instead?
How wonderful.
Yeah.
That's nice. Good for you. Um, let's see. Um, we've buzzed through a bunch of this stuff already here. I wanted to say hi to Eric and Mo that are on here, and let's see
We
if
love Eric and Mo.
I know I haven't seen them in a while. Um, I think that's all. I was trying to make
The
sure I say hi to everybody.
smilingest people I know.
Always smiling.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. What inspires you before a performance? How do you, like, for myself, I get on usually TikTok and I'll go live, or I'll do videos in costume before I go to an appearance. What do you do that gets you going? Is it like boot? Okay, Bruce, Dr. Bruce, it's his shoes. Once he puts his boots on, he's good to go. Um, there's different things that everyone has that they do. What would inspire you before your performances?
Well, suiting up certainly, and having been on the stage as much as I have, a great suit of clothes does help. And there is that part to the methodism in all of us, right?
Yes. Yes.
When we have the right tools, and for me, sometimes it is a guitar, but I certainly appreciate um, being in a certain costume to help myself as well. But on the other side of that, I feel like the performance itself is so exciting and can be so open ended, where I don't know what's going to happen. I know what I'm supposed to do, but usually what the frame of mind that I put myself into, even whether I'm vocally warm or not, I put myself into what's going to happen. I've already envisioned what's going to happen when I get out there. And it may be different, and yet that's some of the excitement. And again, I may have to improvise or change, but I'm so excited about being there and being in the moment. People ask later too, it's like, hey, did you watch the video yourself? It's like, nope,
No.
video's not going to do me a bit of good after I'm done, because what I did at that moment to me was the best I could do. And I don't want to see myself and see any faults or anything else later. I'm
Yep.
going to do the best I can. I'm going to live in that moment and live in the excitement of that moment, win, lose, or draw, and go from there.
Do you
But
tell
you
yourself?
pull on the boots, you pull on the suit,
Yep.
you pull on that weight, and it's like, here we go.
That's it. That's kind of, I'll do it, have it all on, and before I walk out, it's showtime. I'll tell myself, even before, when I've been in front of crowds and had to talk in front of TV stations in my own self, not in costume, I tell myself that, here we go, you're on. I have to tell myself something though, and then it kind of takes the personal me out of it, and I become the character at that moment. Definitely, but I have to tell myself. So I get it. Let's see if we have any other big questions here. Okay, do you have any advice for performers looking to add music or performance skills to their character? Any advice on that?
So practice is a good thing. It really is. And I recognize that not everyone has the same background to have afforded them time to develop their voice as it is. And I've done so many shows that were long lasting and then sung in rock bands where you have to go and sing for 4 hours at a time. And that really does develop a lot of core strength for that performance itself. And I know how to put myself into that immediately, right? When I step out on the stage, even if it's just one song. National anthem, I sang Saturday night in El Paso. I knew exactly where I was going to go when I got there. And the only
Great job, by the way. I watched it.
Yeah, the only improv, by the way, there was that I had to steel myself, because when I said rockets red glare, they were going to be setting off fireworks.
Wow.
And so gunshots in the middle of your vocal performance. But what I've told folks all along, if you have access to singing in a community choir or singing at church, do that all the time. Sing as much as you can. If it's just the radio, then just sing with the radio. If you've got a bar or a club or something that you don't mind going to that does karaoke nights, go sing karaoke. Yep. You can pick out the Christmas songs if that's what you want to do, but get that kind of practice under your belt where you're in front of people, sure, and you may not be doing solos, it may not be karaoke, but you're with people and singing, and keep that as a vocal exercise. The ones that perform at particular times, I've told this story before. If you're singing at 10 o'clock in the morning, when you're practicing, be practicing at 10 o'clock in the morning, at least for a week ahead of time, so that your body starts to, whether it really knows what's going on or not, it probably will adapt a little bit better, because you keep hitting the same song at the same time. It's going to feel a little better about that.
Wow. Yeah. Another thing is Betsy and I talk about, and we've went over and over this year, was self-improvement. And part of that with this musical stuff is like just challenging yourself and learning from those challenges. Like I was in community, it'd been 3 years, but I did a musical this year. Mm-hmm. And at some point, different points on the stage, I was like, what in the heck am I doing here? Have I lost my mind? But I did.
The community theater is a great venue to practice if that's available to you. Yes. The corporate part of that, where you're with other people, certainly helps challenge you, because it's not so much competition as it is working together.
Yes.
Which you as a solo character will help you too, because as you get ingrained in working together, or even taking the spot where it is your chance to lead, then you work with the others in supporting them, and then take your lead in there, and you get used to doing that when it's your time to shine, to punching that and making that happen for you.
The other good thing is that it seems like every time I would do it, there was very few people that I really even knew. So you're starting out with a clean slate of, you have to work as a team, singing and dancing, and you don't really know any of these people. Good luck. Yeah. But it's so rewarding because it works out. It's crazy.
Sure. And that certainly will help you if you're doing home visits, or if you're working at different corporate facilities where you have to team up instantly with an events planner or an events manager or the sound guy. Just knowing how to speak to those people and express your needs for help in certain ways, and keep that teamwork going.
Yeah. So yeah, that is very valuable. Let's see if we have any. How does performing impact you personally? So we're going the other way.
It certainly has always been an encouragement to me personally. I love the way it makes me feel, knowing specifically that other people are moved by what's going on. Yeah. And if they're moved to tears or moved to smile, it's kind of the same thing. It can be an emotional response. And I don't need to hear, oh, you were a great singer, or, oh, you were this or that. I love to hear more that they enjoyed themselves or that they were moved in a particular way. But even if I don't hear that, the satisfaction of doing that and knowing that I'm hitting a mark, sometimes it's audible, sometimes it's not. But I know I have brought something to the table and given it my best. And for me, that makes me happy.
One of the rewards for me when I'm on stage is the younger crowd that maybe has not done musicals before.
Right.
This happened this year, for instance. I quickly remember it's headed toward the last show, and you're watching their faces become sadder and sadder when they're realizing this is it. This is going to be the last. And so I'm comforting these young people that are feeling all these emotions that they've, it's just amazing that you don't think about any of this stuff. But that's part of why I'm there, is to help them through that and understand what's going on. And that's part of what I do too. So
I've talked to performers, and Santa's and Christmas performers can be the same way.
Yes.
And sometimes the thought is very quickly a fear of what might happen. And our setup is really the same as it is for any other performer. First of all, the audience is there to see you succeed. They're not there to see you fail.
No,
And so they are on your side from the start. Whether you feel that you've done it well or not is kind of immaterial. If you're doing the best you can singing, know and understand that the audience isn't there to laugh with you. They're there to cheer you on and maybe laugh with you and sing with you and support you. They want you to succeed, even as Santa.
I love that. That is so wonderful. Very nice. And you know what? We're after 8:00 already. Can you believe it? Okay, I want you, anything else, any kind of recaps you would like to leave with us on creativity, service, musical, anything that you would want us to know? Any wise words?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us have it.
I don't know, my wisdom's pretty skewed sometimes. If you've ever thought about playing guitar, or if you've ever thought about playing ukulele, give it a whirl, give it a trial. If you've ever thought about singing, certainly give that a whirl. And if you've never thought about it, or if you have been told, well, I don't sing well, people tell me that, you need to push some of that aside and just do it. Go with the Nike method here and just do it. Because it's not that you owe your audience that, but again, it's because they're there for you and they want you to succeed. And they're also there to have a good time. They're not going to remember that Santa had a great voice. They're going to remember that they had a good time because that guy sang with us, right? Or that performer did these things with us that entertained us. And it doesn't have to be singing, right? As long as you're engaged with them and making them happy, that's what they're going to remember. If you're a juggler and you drop every third ball, they're probably still going to have a good time. Yeah.
What wonderful thing to remember. Now I'm going to add something I forgot to ask you about. You're going to be doing a school with Darla in Oklahoma. Is that correct?
We are.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about that real quick?
So Darla and I started together, and she was my mentor. And that's why I felt so comfortable from the get-go. She's a theater person. She's a stage person. As a matter of fact, when she asked me the initial question, have you ever thought about being Santa? I said I would if I could perform with someone like you. And that's how we started. She was the perfect mate because she is very unassuming in her demeanor as we walked out on stage. But she's also the perfect companion saying, now Santa, as we're walking wherever, now Santa, I need you to do this here. Now Santa, I need you to do this here. And it was just perfect for me, not knowing what some of the expectations might be. You know, I had envisioned some of this. I've seen Santa before. I know what he looks like. I know the ho, ho, ho. But to hear that from someone of her stature to help me through was just perfect. Now, on the other hand of that, she came with Mark, her husband, a lot of time to the initial events. And then as we became better partners, Mark didn't come as much to everything. And I knew instantly what my job was, and that was to treat that woman exactly as I would my wife. If she had stuff, I carried it. And we worked together that way. Well, we've developed past that. And, you know, she was certainly arm candy to some degree. I hope I'm not offending people. But she made Santa look good. As a matter of fact, our best compliment across the years has always been, "Oh, you're not married?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, you know, we're separate entities, but they believed us to be married. And I said, this is a wonderful compliment. Well, out of that, we've over the last couple of years talked about leading sessions where we could, and it finally came to fruition this year. We had talked hard about it last year, but it came about from the aspect and the standpoint of a Mrs. Claus training. She said, will you do the Santa part? I said, yes, absolutely. Because part of what you may have seen in the video is trying to put the art into the partnership and try and make everyone understand that the teamwork here really can make the dream work there. If you can get the audience to the point where you are that married couple, where the kids know, okay, you're Santa Claus, but she's the queen, right? If they see that, that just adds a better dimension to Santa. Trust me.
Yeah.
If the kids see that he has a queen with him,
and what a good example it leaves for the children who knows what their stories are, their lives are like. But to see Santa and Mrs. Claus, the amazing couple that love each other, and you know, that I think that's just such a gift to give to the kids. So
it legitimizes Santa, right?
Yeah.
And it makes him real as opposed to just being this character at Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing everything. You are wonderful and you do such nice things for others. It's amazing. And I guess I could just talk forever all night, Sarah. There's so much. I don't think we had any more questions, so we will cover that because Angela's usually good about that. So thank you for taking time out of your life and meeting with me and everything it took to put this show together. We appreciate you. And with that, I would like to thank Angela for producing and Bob for everything he does for us and the whole TNL Network Productions team. You are appreciated. And my last note that I like to end all my shows with, which means a lot to me because it's not about us, any of us, I believe. It's about the children. So everything we do is for the children, the ones before us, the ones beside us, and the ones beyond us. So those are my last words I will leave for this show, episode 11. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Sean.
And with that, good night, and we will see you later.
Bye, everyone.